Nikki here. I'm the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be doing a Tackling the TBR for April. Tackling the TBR is a feature I've been running on my blog for a couple of years now, and I love it. It's a way to prioritize books by highest priority because I used to just read anything that caught my attention at the time. So I had to really knuckle down and get serious about my title selections because I realized that life's too short to read the books I'm not enjoying, and I'm only going to be able to get through a finite number of them within a given time range. And at the rate I was going, I didn't think I was ever going to get through the books that I really loved. So I take a look at all of the books on my horizon. I pick 5 that I deem my highest priorities, and I pick from that selection throughout the month. And I can do the shiny titles, like, ooh, shiny, if I finish all of those 5 priorities, but usually these days, that's about all I can handle. It used to be 10, but 5 is a lot more manageable, especially since lately I've been getting more and more into long adult fantasy novels as opposed to YA, which I was reading a lot of before. Here is my Tackling the TBR for April. Okay, the first one I'm tackling is Skype by Neil Shusterman. I've heard really good things about this author, primarily the Unwind series by him. Quite a few people have recommended it to me specifically. This one has been on my radar ever since it came out, and now that the trilogy is complete, I think it's a good time to read it. My book club actually selected it, so I have yet another motivation to pick it up. And I know I just said that I don't usually read a lot of YA these days, but this one is one of the few exceptions. It's one of the ones I keep coming back to. And actually, I'm about 10% in right now, and I am really liking it so far. I think the concept is really interesting, and I like the methodology. It's basically about a world where they've eradicated all causes of death. And so to avoid population, they have these reapers that go around and select people to kill. So they're kind of acting as the population control. And the thing I like most is their methodology on how they pick the people that they're going to reap. So far so good. I'm looking forward to digging further into this one. I might actually even devour the whole trilogy before my next book club meeting. So the next one on my list is Aryam by Maggie. I actually picked this title up about 10 years ago and got about 100 pages in before putting it down. I was kind of dealing with some eye strain issues at the time, and this book is only available in paperback format or really astronomically expensive hardcovers, so this is the only format I could realistically get a hold of, and the print in it is tiny. Teeny tiny little print, like half the size of a normal fantasy novel. I've always wanted to get back to it because this author's Shadow League trilogy has been in my top favorites ever since I read it in high school. And actually, it's one of those series that I feel like I need to revisit because I'm not sure if I would like it as much now as I did back in high school. You know how, like, the more you read, the more you realize that the things you gave 5 stars really weren't worthy of it, but at the time you didn't have anything to compare it to. In any case, so far this one's really good. As you can see, I'm a little ways into this one already. I've actually been reading it for a couple months, so tiny print and the fact that it's only available in hard physical copy, I don't get to it very often. This is a very odd book. There's a lot of elements in it that if it hadn't been written as well as it is, that I probably would have DNF'd it already. But I really like the writing. She's got a nice flow. It's very character-centric, and I'm interested in seeing how the world develops. It's one of those that doesn't follow a typical cookie-cutter storyline, and I feel like a lot of the books these days, because there's so many writing workshops that teach the same thing, a lot of the books have a similar trajectory. This does not follow typical plot lining. So because of that, I think I'm more interested in it because I have no idea where it's going to go. And I find that really exciting. I probably won't finish it this month, but I've made a commitment to myself to put my phone down more at home and go for books more often, especially right before bed. So I'm hoping to make a dent in it. If I can get halfway through it by the end of the month, I'll be happy. The next one I'm continuing is Million Dollar Demon by Kim Harrison. I talked a lot about this in my March wrap-up. It's book 15, I believe, of her Hollow series with Rachel Morgan as a main character, and it's really good. For a series that got completed and then revisited and started up again, it's just as good now as it was back in the original series, and I'm really interested to see what happens next. So more on that later. The next book on my list is The Burning Gods by R.F. Kuang. It's the final book in the Poppy War trilogy. And I have to say, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I did not enjoy the second book as much as a lot of my peers on Goodreads. Something about it felt a little forced. I think the character stopped becoming an instigator and stopped having an active role in her own future. She seemed to be just kind of going along with what everybody around her wanted, and I like characters who are catalysts of their own destiny. And actually that's what I liked about this character at the very beginning. I liked how much work she put into getting into the school in the first place, you know, like all of the endless studying she did for the testing, and the lengths she went to when she was at the school to accomplish her goals was really impressive. And so to go so far from that to the character we are now, it feels like a totally different person. And if that's in line with like the author's vision for the character, to have her have that dramatic transformation and then in the third book kind of like finds herself again, if that's the trajectory, then I think I'll be okay, and I'll probably look back on the second book with a little bit more positivity. But as of right now, I've lost a lot of enthusiasm. And a big draw for the first book for me was the training sequences and the school setting and all that. And now that all that's gone, the second book just kind of was okay for me. So I'm really hoping this third book will bring it back full circle. And I've actually seen a lot of really positive reviews that it's one of the strongest trilogy enders out there. So fingers crossed. Okay, the final book on my list this month is Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. If you've seen any of my videos so far, you know I've been raving about this author lately. He's a staple in the genre for a reason. He's so good. I love what he does with characters. I love his writing. I love the fact that he can make me laugh during the most bleak of scenes. And this one in particular is probably the biggest, feels like the biggest offshoot from the main series. However, there's a couple of storyline elements wrapping up from the end of the first trilogy that I've been waiting to see happen. And so we're finally getting some answers in that regard. And I am just eating up every page to see what this author wants to show me next. Incidentally, I'm about halfway through this one already, and I lost track of time with my library hold and it expired on me. And of course there's a waiting list because it's Abercrombie, so it's going to be another 2 months before I get a hold of it to finish it, unless I want to break down and spend a credit on just half of an audiobook that I haven't listened to yet. So I haven't decided what I want to do with that. I'll probably finish up the other books on my list and then go from there. So there you have it, my TBR tackler shelf for April 2021. Normally I'd like to get these videos out at the beginning of the month, but you know, life. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.